The devil will defeat you. The devil will destroy your life. The devil will do all this. The devil will do that. Evil, evil, evil. And we're given power to our fears that are powerless until we give them power. How important it is that we understand that, because there is one power in this whole universe, and it's the all good. But when you shut that light off, is the only time there's darkness. When you close out that all good, is the only time that evil could even exist. When the absence of the all good. So in order to have faith, we've got to have a conviction deep within our hearts and our lives that says we understand that God is able to do all things. And we live in the can do anything can happen kind of world. And we begin to have that kind of faith that unfolds for us in such a powerful way. Because let me tell you this, when ifs come in our way, and they like to rise up, conditions, doubts, things that restrain, our faith is weakened. We kind of move forward, and then we've got an if that pulls us back. And we move forward, and we got an if that pulls us back. And we always let these ifs kind of rise up that are questions and doubts and wondering that really hold back that power of this faith that wants to flow so freely. And I want to ask you, who's minding the gateways of your life? And who's deciding to let some of these ifs manifest and come in? It's you. In the ancient times, they built big cities in the Middle Eastern culture, great walled cities like Jerusalem. And they'd have big, huge gates opening up for people to enter into the city, wide open passageways. But in the times of turmoil or fear, or when a city was being challenged by an enemy, or in times when an adversary approached, or at nightfall, they closed those gates. Now, how did you get in the city? Oh, there was a little gate, a little small doorway called the Eye of a Needle. You came to that place. And if you were a rich man, it was very difficult for you to enter through the Eye of the Needle because you had camels full of all kinds of things. And you had to unburden those camels and take them down and get that camel to scoot down, because camels can do this. I've been in the Middle East and see these camels crawl through, and then rise back up. And then the rich man has to carry all those things through the Eye of the Needle gateway and reload his camel up. Very challenging, but a beautiful story as it unfolds for us that there are times in our lives when I have to ask you, is your gate just wide open to all kinds of ifs and buts? Or isn't it time that we close down and say, let's just let these thoughts come through the Eye of the Needle, this small one, where we can do some checks and balances and say, you know what, do I really want to entertain these kind of thoughts in my life? Because I don't think I really do. I think I don't really want some of these restraints and conditions and restrictions, because they're just slowing down the power of my faith. It just kind of restrains and slows down this wonderful, faithful momentum that is bringing about and manifesting your all good. How many of you have been ziplining? Any of you ever been ziplining? I had the chance to go ziplining in Costa Rica. I am not big on heights. This is not my favorite thing to do. But my partner Robert said, we're going to do this. And to be supportive, I said, sure, we'll do this. What could go wrong, And I love this because if you ever go ziplining, they start you out with these little base camps where you may start out and you see the zip line, and they hook you all up, and you look down and 12 feet. Oh, what is that? I can handle 12 feet. And you hang on to this wire and they push you out and you zoom across about 20 feet to the next platform and you stop and you go, piece of cake. What was I worried about? No big deal. The problem is you can't go back because the zip line only goes one way. So you're on the zip line and the next one, it's not 12 feet anymore. No. It's now 100 feet. And the next one is a football length across the way, over the jungle and looking down over a stream, and you're going to drop about, looks like a gazillion feet down there. What, those little tiny things down there, what are they? People. Oh, great. You see, in those moments, the coaches are there to say, now, come on, we're just going to push you out. You're going to zip line across this thing. Now, in Costa Rica, in this particular zip line program, There was a little glove they gave you with a little metal end on it, little handle, that you kind of press down, that you could slow the speed down. Ooh, I was really keen on that one because, I'm not really big on going fast with no control over big, drop-offs and canyons. That was not my cup of tea. I'm like, okay, how do you slow this down now? You just press down, and it will slow the speed. And I thought, okay, now this will work for me. Here we go for the big long haul, the length of a football field, and he shoves me off, and I'm going like a seemingly 10,000 miles an hour. Not really, but it felt like that. And I'm going down, and I'm zip-lining across, and I'm thinking, oh, this is way too fast for me. And I start pushing down and slowing down the momentum, and before you know it, I'm dangling midway in the distance, and I've stopped. And let me tell you, I would rather have the speed than stopping in midstream on that cable, dangling down at those little ants called people on the ground. And I'm thinking, what have I done? And you know what you have to do when you've stopped it? You now have to go hand over hand on that thing like this, pull yourself across the cable for the next, 200 feet or more to try to get to your destination. You're really pulling yourself up, and it's a whole lot of work. I'm going to tell you this is like our faith. Your faith wants to zip you through something amazing, carry you through, then you're going to go through heights and go through amazing places. You're going to get from here to there. But when you add the if, it's that little thing that can pull down on the cable and slow you down, and before you know it, you're left hanging there. That's right. You're left hanging there. And then it's the hard work of pulling yourself in, and it's so much more difficult because you allowed these crazy ifs. You allowed these constraints. You allowed these doubts. You allowed these conditions to say, yes, God, but if, oh, yes, God, but if this happens first, then, and we add all these kind of conditions, and they're only going to slow our faith down from the miraculous that we want to happen in our life. I love this text, Hebrews 11:6. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. Now, wait a minute. I didn't like that phrase at first, understanding what does it mean to please God? Like God's waiting up there looking down on us like it's some being. God is not a being. God is not a human. God is this presence of divine. So how do you please this wonderful presence? It's really saying that without faith, it's impossible to be in this clear connection with God. It won't be clear. It's going to be clouded over. It's going to be kind of foggy. It's going to be in this way without faith. There's some days my glasses get all fogged up. I'm like, what happens here? Am I putting my fingerprints all over them? It seems like it. There are some days there's so much greasiness on your glasses. It seems like you just can't seem to see through anything. And you feel like, wait a minute, you got to stop and clean those off. I don't get a clear visual connection when I'm trying to read unless I've got those clear glasses. So it is with our faith. It's going to give us a clear connection to see clearly and comprehend fully. And that's the connection it's talking about in our lives. It says, because anyone who comes to God must believe that the Almighty exists and that the divine presence rewards. Rewards. It rewards. Wow. The Bible's telling me that the divine presence rewards you. Wait a minute, I thought punishes me. I thought looks down on me with judgment, wants to send me to hell when I don't do the right thing. Anyone who believes that this divine presence exists will experience rewards. It will reward you. It will reward those who seek earnestly, who are seeking with no ifs, living the ifless life in this wonderful way of expression, that there's a wonderful way that then suddenly their lives are transformed. We have this clear connection. It happens then as something changes within our life. We get a new attitude. I got a new attitude. Don't you love that song? How many remember that one? Right? Who was singing that? Yeah, right. Everybody goes, Patti LaBelle. Okay, we got that one. I got a new attitude. And that's really what the scripture has been inviting you to understand. You got a new attitude. And what is this attitude? An attitude is a settled way of thinking and feeling, a view, an outlook, a stance, a position. It's this wonderful stance, position, settled view, outlook of thinking about someone or something. And the key words is settled way. Having an attitude is having a settled way of thinking or feeling. It's a posture or position or a stance that you have when you see in others, and you got an attitude, and you can say, I can see an attitude in you. Ooh, there's an attitude of confidence in you. I see an attitude of love in you. I see an attitude of compassion in you. I see an attitude that's a stance, a position, a way of thinking, a way of living in our lives. And faith is built on these wonderful attitudes then, that you got to have an attitude of belief that says, my attitude is full of, I believe. I believe that I believe that I believe. I think it's really important that we say that. Say that with me. I believe that I believe that I believe. Do you believe it? Then say, I believe that I believe that I believe. Say it with me. I believe that I believe that I believe, because we've got to work on believing with affirmations and things that affirm us constantly about what we believe. Because let me tell you, those ifs are creepy little things. They like to crawl in. They'll find a little crack in your faith life. They're going to find a way to get in that want to just tear about and weaken you down. You know, I lived in Holland for a while, and I taught in a girls' high school. And there I lived by a village with a huge dike. You know, and they have all these little stories of the dikes with the little cracks and people sticking their finger in to hold the water out. But I'm telling you, that's the way it is. All it takes is one little crack in that beautiful wall that's up there that's holding back the seawater. And bam, a city can be destroyed. And so it is in our own individual lives that sometimes those faith things that are walls of our life that we think are so strong, we just let a tiny one, just an itty bitty one in. Isn't that okay? Just let a little if in, you know? In Africa, we tell a story out in the Turkana people of the deserts about a camel herder who lived out in the cold night of the Sahara Desert. You know, at nighttime, even though at daytime it's 130 degrees in the desert, at night it gets really cold because the sun goes down and nothing really sustains and keeps the heat, and it gets really chilly out in the Sahara Desert. And so a camel came to the tent of the camel herder and just kind of tapped his foot, and the camel herder steps out and says, "What is it?" "Oh, please, sir, it's just so cold. It's so cold. Could I just put my nose inside the tent and warm my nose?" "Okay." Camel herder says, "Put your nose in." Fine. Goes back to sleep. A little bit later, the camel herder, tap, 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 tap. "Please, kind sir, can I just warm my head? Just stick my head in. Is that okay?" "Okay, let me go back to sleep." Tap, 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 tap. Again, the camel said, "1 foot, just 1 foot in the tent. Is that all?" 1 foot. Tap, tap, tap. Another foot. Okay. Bam, he's in, and out goes the camel herder. Out of the tent and thrown out. You see, this story illustrates to us that we're letting just a little if in because we haven't been minding the gate. The gate has been wide open. We just said, "Okay, come on in." And when we are there to mind it, suddenly we realize we can't let a little if in at all. Because we need to have the attitude of believing that's full of affirmation, affirming over and over again. This is what I believe, and that's what builds up and reinforces the wall that holds back all that would want to be in our way of tearing our lives down, of doubt and fear. The next thing in our attitude is not only just belief, but how about some acceptance? Ever been proposed to? Someone got down on their knee, asked this wonderful magical question: "Would you pay for dinner?" Oh, no, that isn't what they ask, is it? No, what is it they ask? Oh, would you marry me? Yes, that's right. Someone gets down and there's this great proposals. And how many we see these on TV, like the Today Show, and the guy gets down and he's putting his whole life on television before the girl and presenting the ring. And what do we wait for? Hold it, hold it. What'd she say? What'd she say? What'd she say? Did she consent? She said yes. Okay, all right. Suddenly we're waiting for this consent. Because acceptance is so powerful for shaping our faith that we accept, we consent to. We believe and we consent to the wonderful power and presence of God unfolding things in our lives. I want to tell you that everything in life requires consent. You've got to consent to it. So let me tell you, nothing's going to happen in your life that you don't consent to. And everything that's happened in your life, in some way or another, you consented to it. There was an acceptance. So we have to realize what is that we are offering acceptance to? What is it we are consenting to? That we are saying yes to? How important it is that we have this element within our faith, because there is no power that's going to come into your life unless you give it this power, that you consent to it, and how important that is. And then last aspect, there is belief. I believe, I believe, I believe. There's acceptance and there's consenting. And then there's trust. You got to have a trust that's so confident. Confident. You got to have complete trust in your approach to the Spirit, confident in all ways. There's a beautiful story about a young man who was learning to fly. He was going to pilot school. Big day came for him, and he was with his instructor, took off into the wild blue skies, flying, showing his instructor, I can do this. I deserve my pilot license. And then in the midst of that, the instructor told me to put the plane into a steep and extended dive. You know, it was totally unprepared, he says, for what was about to happen. In a brief time, suddenly the engine stalls on the plane, and it was beginning to plunge out of control. And he's like, the student is going, aren't you going to help me? Aren't you going to help me? I mean, what's going on here? And in a few seconds, he realized that in his mind, he said, I've got to correct the situation. And he does so, and boom, the plane gets levels out. And it's still above the clouds. Whew. We're still good. And he turns to his instructor and says, excuse me, where were you in this moment? You know, what were you doing? And let me let out some of my frustrations a little bit, because you're sitting right next to me and you let me dive and you let the engine stall and you let all this stuff happen. Do you realize what could have happened to our lives? You see, the instructor simply turns to him and says, I'm your instructor. There's no position you can get in this airplane that you can put the airplane into that I can't get you out of. That's why I'm called the instructor. That's why I'm your teacher. I'm here to show you that there's nothing you can get your life into that I can't get you out of. And that's what the Spirit of God is saying to us today. When you trust the power of the instructor, the teacher, the divine Spirit, this divine presence. You trust it completely in such a way that says, you're screaming and hollering, I'm in a dive and my engine's about to stall and I'm not going to make it. And then we trust and we have no ifs, no constraints, no doubts, and anything can happen, and it does. And that's the beauty of the promise of God. So I'm here to ask you, are you ready to live ifless living? Because it's about removing those ifs and removing those restraints to allow the flow of God's blessings to come to your life. Because I want to hear, if that's your case, the stories of God's blessing this week. I want you to call me. I want you to tell me when you've been blessed. I wanted you to call me when you receive unexpected income that came in to surprise you. I want you to call me if you found a couple of pennies. I don't care, because you're on the roll when we're understanding that we're removing those restraints to say, I walk in God's blessings right here and now. And if that's what you believe, then that's what's going to manifest. And I want to hear about it. I want you to call me. Because this ifless living is about inviting and maintaining the presence of God in our lives, that we move to a greater level. You're pretty good today. You know what? Y'all looking beautiful and fabulous, and y'all looking wonderful, and a lot of good grace and amazing things happen, but are you ready to get even better? I mean, you think you're looking good today. You're going to be even better tomorrow. When you allow this ifless living, you're expanding. You're moving to a higher level. You're moving to another dimension. And in this ifless living, it's learning how to play the game so that you love the game. That's what it's all about. You're going to love the game. And what is the game? It's the game of life. And it's the Spirit of God unfolding nothing but goodness in your life, that you are on this incredible ride that you're like, whee! You know, the roller coaster. Love those roller coasters. Not so much. No, not me. But I like the idea that there's this click, 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 click. All of a sudden, whoa! And then the click, 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 whoa! And what happens in each one of those? An adrenaline rush, right? Whoa! Your hands go up. Whee! You're excited, right? Why? Because you're experiencing something that's thrilling. And that's what your spiritual life was meant to be. Thrilling, exciting. For those who have no ifs, those who can't believe in the King James, wow, anything can happen. Amen.